Hey guys, Brian here with Fourth Farm Project. Today Terry is going to walk you through how we locate and cut out for old work or remodel boxes. Hope you enjoy it.
So I'm going to show you how we determine where to put the box and how we mark it and then how we cut it out. First off, normally when we rough a house in off the rough floor, not the finished floor, but off the rough floor when we're in there pulling the wire, we'll measure up 45 inches. The reason being, this would be representing the countertop, but then the cabinet top. Then you have your counter, you have your backsplash, and it gets up in here somewhere. A lot of people will go 42 inches and it's just above there. We like to go 45 off that rough floor. So that's where we marked it originally, and that's why there's one mark. Where this hash mark is the one we're actually going to cut out, and we dropped it down. The reason being, after we marked these, and luckily before we cut them, on the other side of the kitchen where there's already outlets, they had a different standard than we did. So we went ahead and measured down and matched that, which I forget, I think it was 48 3/4 inches off the ceiling. So we went with that because that's what was here, and we want to match the existing. Since there's still going to be boxes over them counters, we want it to all look the same. We may do a tile backsplash, I don't know. This is all in evolution. So if we do, we want the tile to fall the same on these as it does over there, just for symmetry, I guess. So we measured up. We have these, they came from Sanus, S-A-N-U-S. They were actually off of TV mounting brackets. They came in the boxes with them. We put two up for a lady and she didn't want these, but it makes it really easy to find the studs. It's a magnetic stud finder. It's got a little magnet in it. So you can just stick them up there and there you go. So we know we're in between the studs, provided there's not some hidden obstacle back there, which there can be. Anytime you go to cutting or drilling in a wall or in a top plate, a bottom plate, wherever, make sure there's no plumbing there, make sure there's no wiring there or anything that you would not want to destroy. So, you know, that's something I can't show you here. Every time you go to cut or drill or make a hole, there's always a chance of something there you don't want to destroy. So you just have to figure out how to do that for yourself for each instance. We know our house, there's nothing up here that's going through this wall. In this instance, we marked the top because we measured from the ceiling over there. It was just easier to do with cabinets and stuff in the way. So we measured from the ceiling down, and it was 48 3/4, I believe is what the number was, and we made a little mark there. So in this instance, we would go to the top of the box with that mark. Normally we'd measure off the floor, make a mark on the bottom, and line the bottom of the box. So that's what we will do. We'll go with the top. But anyway, you want this edge right here, not where the tabs are at, but this edge just above the screw hole is what you want to line up with your mark. I'll draw an additional one here. So you got your mark here. You want to line this bottom edge of the box up with that mark. So we're on that. Now, we're going to grab our level, stick it on the side of the box, get it level, check to see it. We're still on our mark. We are. We're pretty much level there. Mark the side of the box all the way down, the top of the box, the bottom of the box, inside the tabs, not on them. This other side of the box. When you finish that, you've still got spaces that aren't marked because that's where the tabs were. So you come back in, lay your box like that, mark it that way, and right there. And then you take your saw and you cut this whole area right here out. That box is going to slide in there. When you turn this screw, it makes that tab flip up. It'll pull against the sheetrock and pinch the sheetrock between here and there. And then your box stays in the wall. Same with this one. Okay, well, let's cut this thing out. This is a keyhole saw. You can buy a lot of different varieties. There's some out there. I think Milwaukee has one that's a handheld unit that you can install their different variety of blades in, which would really be nice because that way you can change up. This is kind of an aggressive thing. It'll cut wood, sheetrock, a lot of different stuff, but then sometimes it gets ruined depending on what you're cutting. If you had that Milwaukee, you could put the blade according to the job at hand. So anyway, generally they have a point on these kind that's a fixed blade. You can stick that point right in the corner and kind of work it like a drill and try and get it in that wall And if you see it starting to get out away from the hole, then you can move over. You can always start in the hole a little bit. You shouldn't really use your hand for a hammer. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Start working my way up there until I can get to the edge of that line. Cut it to the edge of the next line. Now here's where you have to start being careful, especially if it's plaster that you're cutting into, or if there's a plaster surface. When you get the last piece, and the closer you get, the more vulnerable it becomes to breakout. So you have to gently saw once you get to that stage, so you don't tear the wall up. That's why you don't want to just take a big hammer and pound this thing into the wall. You want to be gentle so you don't damage it. Like right there, that broke out and I'm not even doing anything rough. I tend to follow that exact line. Sometimes I leave a little bit of it. You can always come back and take this saw and just take the edge of it and work it up and down and open that hole up. So if the box doesn't want to go in there, you can still work that hole bigger. You can always take some out. You can't add it back too easily. And lo and behold, the hole's going to work perfectly tight. But we don't put this in until we get our wire fished in. Normally when we cut these holes, one of us will sit here with this little vac. We can run a drop cord off of it, whatever, and catch that dust as we're cutting. We like to keep a place clean, especially if somebody's living there. Usually when you're doing remodel work, it's a house that somebody's already there. You can add boxes in a new house that hadn't been moved in, but either way, all that dust and dirt on the floor, 99% of it would be in this vacuum had we had it running. Well, that's how we cut these boxes out. I'm sure somebody could tell you different. A lot of people would drill a hole first. That's just more dust and dirt. I'm able to weasel this thing into that wall and get it to work. And you can see it came out good, so that's the way we do it. Years ago, I would drill them out. If I was in wood, I would drill it. If it was a plaster surface, if you try and pound this through plaster, you're probably going to break it. If you take an old, you can use a masonry bit, or we have used old butterfly bits that were not much good. They're still good for plaster. It's going to destroy them, but you can drill it in, and then you can take this and just gently cut into that plaster, and it will cut it. It'll ruin this blade if you do very many, but take the edge off of it. But it'll cut plaster if you need to do that. But again, it'd be better to drill. And wood, you want to drill, but sheetrock, you can just get it in there yourself. So let's go ahead and cut the rest of these boxes out. Another point I hadn't thought about is I've been cutting the vertical lines because I know them between the studs. I can see where they're at. I've got them marked. If you're not 100% sure that you've got clearance between studs, it might be a wise idea to cut the sideways hole first. That way if you hit wood, you're like, well, I can't go there. If you come in here and you don't hit wood and you start cutting sideways and you hit it before you get to the edge, you just stop there and make that your edge and then go back the other way with the box and move it a little bit. So if behind that wall was a stud right there and I started sawing away and I hit that stud, I can say, well, I'll turn it down along this stud and then I'll just shift my box accordingly. So obviously you can't see that stud through the wall, you just see the sheetrock, but it might be back there. We're pretty confident we don't have any there. That's why I didn't do that, but I normally do cut sideways first. Let's get back to it. One thing to note, after you draw your hole here, if you're not confident with cutting this box, you could cut that hole smaller and then just keep whittling away. You know, not a lot smaller, maybe don't follow the line, maybe leave an 1/8 of an inch or so. And like I said before, you can just whittle away at this on the side, but remember, when you're whittling the side like this, make sure that you're only cutting on a pushing stroke. Don't drag it back, because if you do, you could break the face out and tear your paper here, and you don't want to do that or break the front of the rock out. So always make sure you're cutting on an inward stroke and just do like that. And you just keep rubbing it just flat up against the side. It'll slowly just peel that edge and you just keep working it over. Get your box and try it and say, it won't go yet. Take a little more, look at it close. Maybe the top's hitting, maybe the bottom's hitting. Work on whatever's hitting. And when you get the hole big enough, stick your box in it.
Hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful and informative if you go to cut in your own boxes. Be sure to check back soon. We'll be pulling some wire, cutting in ceiling boxes, getting lights going, then tearing some flooring up. It's going to be a lot of fun. Have a good one, guys.